We'll start off with the session, and myself, Pranav, from the product management team, and I'm one of the senior product analysts from the Wimbu Technologies. And with me, I do have another senior product analyst from Wimbu Technologies, Mr. Mani, who is the co-organizer of this session. So, people, as you could see, this session is concentrated only towards the endpoints backup, and there are a lot of attendees joining in this session. But with not further ado, I just wanted to continue with the session now. I want to cover on some of the ground rules that is very important before I proceed on with this session. So first thing, this webinar is being recorded, and all the attendees will be in the muted mode. Okay, the ground rules basically allows only the attendees in a mute mode. And if you have any questions, you already have a QA box at the nearby. You can raise your questions over there. Mr. Mani from our team will be answering the questions, or else we have a lot of team members are also in the same call, so they'll be answering your questions. If we are not able to cover the answers within this session, we'll be sending you an email with the Q&A to your registered mail address. And this webinar recording will be available after 48 hours after the completion of this webinar. So you can even see that in our website or even in the YouTube channel. We'll be just posting things in the YouTube after 48 hours. So, yeah. So I see there are a lot of new attendees who is newly joined in. So I just wanted to give them a small intro about BDRSuite by Wimbu. So BDRSuite, as you all know, we have been in this business for more than a decade. It is completely a comprehensive backup and disaster recovery solution. And our market that we focus is data protection. So this is what our portfolio is all about. A backup and disaster recovery solution, which is BDRSuite of Wimbu. And being in this field for more than 1.5 decades, we were having a steps in 100+ countries with more than thousands of businesses around us to be using our software. And these are few of our customers who've been using our software for a pretty much longer period of time. And now, so directly to the webinar title. Since I already, while starting the session, I just mentioned that endpoint is going to be the highlight or the talk of the town today. This endpoint data protection made easy is the title, but what we have done is this has been, re-altered, or I would say we have customized things in the BDRSuite itself. Previously, we did have the backup for your endpoints through as a separate chapter where you can configure a backup using a client, where you will have a separate client to be installed on each of your machine, configure the backups directly from the client, and then we later moved on to the backup server, where the installation of agent between a server and the endpoint was a confusion. So to cut short on this, in the latest edition of BDRSuite, that is the latest version of the BDRSuite, that is BDRSuite version 5.60 update 2, we have brought in the major change. Yeah. So we'll be discussing about that in detail. So this is what we have for the endpoint data protection agenda, which we are going to discuss is about the threats that revolves around the endpoints, and what would be the backup strategy that you could use, and how BDRSuite is going to help you out in this case. So not much of a difference will be there if people has heard the previous webinar on endpoints like couple of months before. It is going to be the similar, but we have some changes to be done in the portfolio. Yeah. First, when I talk about endpoints, the reason that I'm going to talk about endpoints is the data loss that occurs around the endpoints. So during this pandemic situation, many people were allowed to work from home. So there were huge of data losses where some of them were critical data of their firms. And this was mainly due to human error. So a survey says that more than 60% of the data loss was due to human error. The next rest of the things were due to the software corruption, due to viruses or malware. There's a computer theft that is also coming under human error. And then we have this hardware damaged or the hackers and insiders, which is literally equal to the viruses and malware. So these are the reasons that has been listed for a data loss when you configure, and I mean when you seek an endpoint or whatever the machine that you're using from your home or from your office or the machine that is portable along with you. So when there is a data loss, what would be the consequences? If there is an important, like if there is a important of the data that you're going to lose, then there would be a loss of productivity or the loss of customer loyalty if you're working for a firm, like more from the employee's side, or if it is a permanent business failure that would lead to. So this is more like an, a cycle chain that you have this one interlinked with each other. So when you have a critical data loss, obviously there's a first disruption in the productivity. So in this chain, I'm going to start out with this point, productivity disruption. So if you're working for a firm, then you're using your endpoint, there is a steal of your data, of your critical data, obviously, then it will cut short on your productivity. And then this might lead to a loss of loyalty with your customers. So when your productivity is lost, you won't be able to, provide things and the consequences that you would be facing with the customers directly, because there leads to unsatisfactory terms with your customers. So at that once your loyalty with your customer is lost, you obviously will go for a complete business failure. So not much of a brand or a name you're going to expose out to be. So this leads completely to the data losses, and this is this is the consequences of the data losses that you would be facing at your times if you have to go bankrupt with your data. So what can be done? So how to safeguard my data? So mainly the critical data, which is relying in my endpoint. So for that, we have a solution, and that is where the BDRSuite comes in. But before we come into the BDRSuite, it is generally any backup that you should have for a solution to take a backup of your endpoints. So the major thing that you have to consider while installing a backup solution for your endpoint specifically is it should be an easy to deploy on your user's computer or the user's endpoints or machines, that I would say. And it should relate it to get an automated backup of your data at a scheduled time, not involving your IT admin to each time schedule a backup. And the next is the backup data to local or the cloud. So you can choose where you want to store your data, either on your on-prem storage, that could be your hard drive or a NAS or any of your network drives, or if you want to put it up in your own cloud, you can use that option. So you have a cloud option to store your data as well, so that once you store in cloud, you get to access your data from anywhere around the globe just by signing in, all in your cloud. The next, if it is going to be a bulk installation, make sure it should be running silently. That is one point. And another one is even the backup that you're going to configure should not affect your daily process. So for backup alone, it should not pause your system for 1 hour or 2 hours and then cut short on your work time. So it should be more like a silent backup without affecting your productivity. That is the point number 4. And the fifth one is it should be fast and effortless data recovery. So even if you are hit by a disaster or you have to face through some of your abnormal times, you must be in a situation to restore your data without sweating a sweat. So that is more what we are reliable on. So if that comes alone, then it is completely a endpoint backup solution that you're looking into. That would be the efficient endpoint backup solution. So in this considerations, there are other things that also need to be considered when you choose a backup solution for your endpoint. That is it should be more like a self-service. It should not involve or create dependencies. Next, the flexibility of the solution to scale out whenever it is required. Like, for example, if you have 500 endpoints as of now, and later you're going to extend it to more than thousands or 2,000, and it goes more, you'd still be able to expand your solution. That's how a flexible backup solution should be. And the resource optimization is completely up to you. Like you would be able to optimize your resources based on when you don't need to cut short on things. You can keep on expanding. It should not affect your actual process. And a keen administration, that is very important. So whatever the data, IT, for example, in this case, let me consider it as an IT admin or a service provider. They must be in a position to see the reports or the complete reporting that gives them a complete overview or a hawk's eye view of what things has been done by each of the backups that has been configured. Either the backup has been successful, it has been failure, or it is partially completed. All these details will be checked through this administration, through the proper reporting. Okay, so that is how a general or efficient backup solution for your endpoints would be. And to the surprise, if I say, like, this is all now possible with the BDRSuite, and I'll show you how. So I'm just showing you a setup deployment on-prem, obviously. So BDRSuite is basically a backup and a disaster recovery software that you could install it on your dedicated machine. Either that could be a physical machine, a virtual machine, or a cloud instance. So you could just install the software. Once you install the software, it's going to be a backup server. So this is what your backup server would be. And for example, let me consider there are two endpoints here. One is my Windows laptop and a Mac machine, which I hold. So if I want to take a backup of it, there are two options. If it is a server operating system of Windows, I would be pushing an agent automatically. If it is a workstation, obviously the endpoint versions of Windows, I would be installing an agent. The agent is called as BBA agent, and this agent is going to do all my activities. So this agent, once I push or install it manually on the endpoints, I can configure the backups directly from the backup server. Well, I would say there's an agent, the BDRSuite backup agent, that's for your Windows, Linux, and Mac laptops and desktops, or the endpoints that we generally call, is more like a path opener or a gate opener that connects your endpoints with the backup server. So once it is connected, the backup server, you can configure the backups directly from your backup server. Point to be noted, this would be more useful for the service providers as well as IT admins, because they don't have to rely on their end users to configure the backup. They can just all configure the backups directly from the backup server itself. And whenever the customer or the end user requests this, they can restore the data and share the data to their customers. So this is how your on-prem deployment, or generally a prem of deployment, would be. And here, a main thing that I wanted to mention is I can transfer my data over WAN or LAN. I don't need a specific VPN connectivity or something, or if it is a laptop, I can I can take my laptop around the globe, and all I just need is a network connectivity. So any address or any network connectivity, I just connect. Obviously, the backup will be done, and it will be pushing up to the backup server. But in such a case, one thing that I wanted to make sure is this IP address of the backup server should be a public IP address. If you're going to give a public either the DNS name or the public IP address of the backup server, and you're going to install the agent on a laptop. For example, if I'm going to take this laptop away from my region, for example, if I'm in the United States and I'm moving on to Europe, then whenever I connect to the internet, obviously the backup would be done, and it'll send the backup data over the WAN to the backup server, which is residing in the US state. So if this is how my backup for the endpoints is going to be working. So here I don't need any specific VPN connectivity or not, but here I have my complete access. So I'm free enough to roam around the globe at any time. Whenever I have an internet connectivity, obviously the backup will be done and it will be sent to the BDRSuite backup server. That's an important point that I wanted to mention, and that's how the deployment goes. So now, not to kill much of your time, I'm just going to talk about the latest version of the BDRSuite that we're going to use. So I'm just skipping from the slide section and I'm moving on to the site. Okay. So guys, you could see my website. This is my website. You just need to log in with bdrsuite.com. So once you log into the bdrsuite.com, you can see the downloadable BDRSuite over here. All that you need to do is just click on the download BDRSuite. And here's a download page. You have the update 2 version of 5.60. So you can download this more like an Windows download. So you can download the backup software from here, install it on the supported operating systems. So we have the supported operating systems details in the system requirement. Also the supported OS details are also mentioned over here. We also have a Linux build that is specifically for the Ubuntu. It is a 64-bit configuration. So you can, if you need a Linux build, you can contact our support and they'll get you the the details. So for Ubuntu, the obvious operating systems that we support are from 18.04 LTS and above. Yeah. So once you install the software, make sure you install this BDRSuite backup software on a dedicated machine. I'm just going to show you my backup software installed scenario. This is my backup software installed machine. So this is completely a web-based console. So all that you need to do is, once you install the software, just get the IP address of the machine on which you have installed and put 6060, the port number. You will be able to access your the BDRSuite backup server console from your location. Okay, so this is completely a web-based console, not an application-based console to worry about. So there are 2 types of deployment here. One is your standalone deployment and another one is a cluster deployment. So what I've done here is, for the purpose of the webinar, I've just gone with a standalone installation, with a typical installation where I haven't changed any customizations to be done to my software while installing. So I'm just logging in with a default username and password, which is admin and admin. As you could see that here, and these are the best viewed the browser consoles that you can use. Like you have the Edge, you have the Mozilla Firefox, you have the Google Chrome to be used. Yeah, so I'm just logging in with a default username and password, which is admin and admin. So once you log in, the first thing that you would be seeing is a getting started guide, which would give you a complete detail of step-by-step detailing. So as it is stated, the first one is, once you log in, you need to add your storage. So as far as BDRSuite is concerned, so this is the console. As you could see, this is more like, as I promised to say, this is more like an comprehensive backup and disaster recovery solution. where you can have a backup for your data center, private cloud, and endpoints, which includes your virtual environments of VMware Hyper-V, physical environments of Windows, Linux, Mac. And then if you have any cloud workloads, you have the AWS cloud. And for SaaS applications, we have this Microsoft 365 and Google Workspace backup. And then some of the applications that we support are the Microsoft Exchange Server, Microsoft SQL Server, Microsoft SQL SharePoint, and MySQL database. So all these are supported from a one single console that you're going to view. So in this section, so I'm just pushing over here. So this is what my consolidated console is all about. So as I told you, once you sign in, you need to add your backup repository. Just click on this backup server tile. That's more like a menu icon. So where you have the backup repository, where you can add your block storage and object storage. Block storage is more like an on-prem storage, I would say. So where you can add your storage volumes of your local machine, or if you have any of your NAS or SAN or any your network drive, you can add it as a storage volume. You just need to read through the recommendations, give the drive path, the drive name. If that is password protected, then you can use that credentials here. Once you add it, it will be listed down as a storage volume. Using the scale out repository, you can select two of your volumes and create a backup repository. That is one using the backup server option, that is your block storage. And if you want to use your cloud storage, you can then use, you can choose object storage, and you can use either your own Amazon S3, or if you have your S3 compatible storages such as Wasabi, Minio, Blackblaze, Scality, you can use that. If you have your Azure Blob, you can use your Azure Blob. You have a cloud, Google Cloud, you can use your. So literally, like all these four options you have, you can use your own storage, cloud storage, as your storage repository, so that it falls under your compliance and it's completely your storage within your region. So this is what your first immediate step that you would be doing to configure your backup repository. Once your backup repository is configured, your backup server is completely set and done. Okay, so yeah. So what I'm showing you now is the next step. After I add my storage, what would be the next step is the endpoints. So just click on the endpoint section. You have the Windows disk image backup and file or folder level backups for your endpoints. For Linux, we offer the file and folder level backups, and for Mac endpoints, again, it's going to be a file or folder level backups. So clicking on the first tab, just go to data sources. You have the add Microsoft Windows option. Okay, so this is my Windows option that I'm showing you now. Yeah, so this is my Windows option where these are the servers that I've already added. Now, if I want to add a Windows workstation, that is or endpoint of mine, I just need to click on add Microsoft Windows. So once I click on add Microsoft Windows, I see the options that I can use to add my machine. One is a manual agent installation where I have to download the agent, install the agent on the endpoint machine, and then connect from that agent. That is one step. The second one is this manual agent installation would be widely used for the endpoints. So if it is a bulk installation that you're going to do, then you will be following the steps that has been mentioned here. So you can download it using a third-party tool like a group policy or something. You just push the agent and then install the agent using the commands that has been given here. That is for your manual agent installation. Next is an automatic agent push. So if it is a Windows server machine, obviously the endpoints doesn't have the admin folder. So in such a case, you won't be able to do an automatic push of your agent. So this automatic push would be widely used only for server operating system of Windows. So all that you need to do is you just need to give the IP address or the DNS name of the machine and give the exact administrator credentials of the machine. So the agent will be pushed from the backup server to the target host, which you're trying to take it back. The next is, this is more like, I would say, for the bulk installation again. So all that you need to do is you need to add your hosts here. So you can use this AD or LDAP server option to import your host. And then like using the third-party tools, you will be pushing an agent manually to the targeted machines that has been added through the AD or LDAP server. And the next is importing the host from a CSV file. So you can import the host from the CSV file and then again follow the steps that has been mentioned here for the bulk installation. Okay, so this is literally what you'll be doing to add a host. But in this case, I'm going to use a manual agent installation where I need to download this agent and install it on my source machine on my own endpoint, which I'm trying to take back. So for this, I'm going to take a remote of my endpoint. So just give me a minute before I share the screen as well. I hope everyone is able to see a complete remote of my endpoint machine, which is more like a Windows 10 machine, which I have. So this is one of my personal machine that I've been using for my purposes. So I've already downloaded the the software. So it is in my I'm sorry, not in my, it's in my downloads. So I have this util here. So this is the BDRSuite delegation service of 5.6 update 2. Now, as I told you, this machine, this backup server is more like an, web-based console. So maybe I can take my browser, enter the IP address of my backup server machine over here. And I'm going to log in with the default username and password. So here, people, you could see this is my backup server install machine. So I've just put the IP address of the machine with the 6060 port number. I'm able to view this machine, the console of the backup server machine over here. And what I'm going to do is, as I told you, I've already downloaded the software for my endpoints. So here I've downloaded it, and that I can see in this section. Now I'm going to install this. So this is how I'm going to install. Read through the the EULA, end user license agreement ones, and here's a display name that is going to give for this machine. So maybe like I would say the desktop, this is endpoint personal. So this is what the display name that I'm giving for this machine. And here I have my option, that is backup server name or the DNS name of the backup server has to be added. So my backup server is 102.90. I'm just adding the IP address of that machine here. Oh, this is done. So the next option that you could see is there are multiple, choose a backup type that I'm going to use. So if it is a disk image level backup that I'm going to configure, then obviously I have to reboot the machine where I've installed the agent. But as of now, I'm not going to do a reboot because I'm not configuring a image level backup. All that I'm going to do is no disk image backup required for this host. I'm just going to do only a file or folder level backup. So this is what I'll be using. If I need to do image level backup, then I have to do an automatic reboot for my thing to work further. Okay, or if I want to reboot the system later, I can just do this manually. So if, for example, on the same machine, if you're going to choose either a file or folder level backup alone, then you can use the first option. Like if you want to do both image level backup as well as a file or folder level backup only for your Windows endpoint specifically, then you can choose the last option, because whenever you require, you can reboot the machine. Like it is like, I will manually reboot the host later. As of now, I'll just go with a file or folder level backup. So these are the three options that you have. So based on your requirement, you can choose option, but I'm just going with the first one because I'm just going to show only a file or folder level backup. So once done, I'll just check my backup server. Yeah, this is my backup server. Yeah. So I'm installing the software. That is the agent. Yes. So let us give it a minute to install the software. That is the agent here. So once my agent is installed, then automatically it will list down a display name in this section. Yeah. I'm just going to wait for, yeah. So it has been installed. I'm just clicking on finish to start the delegation service of the BDRSuite. That's what we call it as BPA, a BDRSuite backup agent. So it is installed and you have the notification also popping up. So if I refresh here, yeah, I could see the endpoint personal. This has been added to my backup server. So once this is added, now I can go configure the backups for my endpoint at a file or folder level. So the first step is adding the data source. Now it has been made simple. So this is how you add your endpoints for your Microsoft Windows, and even for Linux machines, it's going to be the same option. You'll have the same option. Again, you can install the agent manually on your Linux endpoints, and even for Mac, you can add the same option manually. You can download and install it. For Mac alone, we have two set of installers. One is internal based installer, and another one is your ARM based installer, which is all completely a 64-bit configurations. Yeah. So once I've as in case I've just added my endpoint here. Now going to configure the backup for that endpoint that I've added. Let's click on files and folders. Now add a backup job template. Like I'm going to give it as webinar endpoint. And I'm going to choose among the repositories. Either I can go with the block storage, that is my on-prem storage, or the object storage, which I already have. So this is my backup repository, and here is my repository name. If I want to create a new repository, I can use this add repository option. Now people, this is how I configure a backup job. But if there are hundreds and thousands of endpoints that I wanted to configure with one single shot, like I don't need to configure each and every time going through the process, then I have a template option. So I can create a backup job using a template as well. So here is a template which I've already created. To create templates, all that you need to do is just go to backup. You have the manage backup job template option, create new backup job template, and you'll be following the configuration steps again. So once you create that predefined policy or the template, which we say, you can use that for any number of endpoints that you're going to add in the later stage. Okay, so now I'm just going with a normal backup process. So once it is done, I have my machine over here. I'm sorry. Yeah, this is my machine. This is an endpoint machine. I also have other Windows machines that are servers actually. So that has been added. So here's a machine. Moving further, I have my option to add the path which I wanted to take a backup. So either it could be as shown in the example, like a D drive, backup folder, backup files, or any of the predefined files. So if I'm not sure with the path, nothing to worry. You have the next option, that is host level selection. So I can just click on action. Here, when I click on browse to add files, it will list down, this is my machine that I've chosen. So it will list down all the files and folders within the data. So I'm going to choose one among them. So it is more like an, I would say the ASCII tree, which I'm going to see, which gives me the options to choose. So I'm going to choose a complete folder or any particular file that I can choose from taking it back. I can go further, and here's an image which I can choose to take it back. Either one particular file or the complete folder can be done. Configure the backup. So that's been added here. And then I'm just giving apply. So here, the option or the host that I've selection for backup or the folder that I've selection for backup will be listed down. Next, if I want to exclude any particular files or folders with a particular particular file format, I can use this option of standard filter, or I can create a rule for using my advanced filter. So I'm just going with the no filter option now. Then scheduling. So with this option, I have multiple backup frequencies that I could schedule. So as I told you, it is more like an automated backup scheduling that you will be doing. So if I want to run every few hours or minutes, I can just choose this option. So minimum RPO would be every 15 minutes. So from every 15 minutes, I'll be able to configure the backups for my folders that I've selected. That's a minimal RPO. If I want to run it on daily basis and the number of times within 24 hours, I can even choose that over here. And next is running on weekly basis, and then I can have it to run on monthly or any after a particular backup job, or I can do it on a manual basis as well. So this is the time that I can set my backup frequency. So as per the design, the initial backup will be a full backup followed by its incremental. So we track only the changes at the block level using our CBT tracker. We track the changes and we configure the forever incremental backup using it. And here, if you need any extra full backup, you can use this option, additional full backup option, to schedule additional full backups whenever you require. Next is the retention. Since it is a Windows machine, obviously you have the deleted file retention also to be enabled. So generally retention helps you to retain the number of backup versions that has been configured. So I have two types of retentions here. One is the version based retention and another one is time based retention. So if I want to hold my data for a week or day or month or year, I can even hold that up till that date. And within that particular time period, if I want to limit the versions, I can limit that. So, or if I want to keep only a maximum number of versions, I can even keep that versions as well with these two options. that I have. The same type of options will also be seen in the deleted file retention. So if, for example, you have configured a backup for a file and at a point of time you have even deleted that file, but your retention point has been kept short, so the backup of that file may not stay. But if you enable this deleted file retention to keep like all of whatever the deleted files that I have for 1 year or 2 year, just hold that for a particular period of time, then those files will also be holded up. Okay, so that is what your deleted file retention is all about. And next is encryption. Your data is all encrypted with AES 256-bit algorithm, both at the flight as well as at the rest. So nothing to worry on that part. If you want to add a password over that encrypted data, you can use this option. So you can enable it. You can use a system generated password or a custom password for this purpose, and you can configure the backup for it. But make sure when you're using a custom password, please don't forget it, because if you forget, you won't be able to restore your data without the password, delete your backup job, or edit your backup job without the password. So on the next is the advanced settings. So this all three would be by default enabled. And next is your summary page. Once I check on the summary detail, I just want to run my backup job immediately. So when I'm saving it, I'm just saving it once first. So yeah, so this is what your backup configuration for at a file or folder level for endpoints would be relying. For this configuration is going to be the same for the Windows, Linux, and Mac as well. Okay, so here you could see there's a backup job that has been configured now. So it's going to run the backup job at the particular time period. Once it starts, yeah, this is in progress. You can check on the progress details here. So it will list down all the details and show you how much percentage has been completed. Yeah, it is listing down the details here. So here is the current file, and the start time and the end time will all be done, showing you with the detail. Okay, so that is how your backup configuration goes. So once your backup for the endpoints is done, next immediate step is the recovery. Just go to recovery of the data. Here you could see the backup job is being shown here, and it also shows you the original size and the compressed size of the backup data. So here I've already configured a backup job with the files and folders, which you can try to restore. So when I click to restore, the file level recovery, that is the only option that I have, and click to restore. I have the full backup that I've configured, and here it will list down the files and folders completely through as a path. So this is what I've just configured for the backup, where I can completely select the folder or any particular file among it to be restored. Yeah, so these are the files that I have. So any particular file that I wanted to restore, I can restore. I can choose a destination location within my backup server, obviously. And if I want to compress that data, I can enable the compression and restore the data. So in this, I can include or exclude the deleted files, and I can restore my data. So this is how your endpoint backup is going to be working for your Windows, Linux, and Mac. If you're going to configure an image level backup for the endpoints, you can also do that, so because the agent is all going to be the same. So you can just go to configure backup, Microsoft Windows. Disk image backup is now available only for Windows machines, either server or the endpoints of Windows. Just go to disk image. Again, the configuration steps stays the more, like I could choose the repository again, go forward. Here, when I click, I'll be shown with the disks that I wanted to take a backup of. So if I select the disk and the configuration is all the same. I don't need to select the individual host or the files. Now, except that, the rest of the configurations will also be the same. But I'll have a difference only at the restore part. If I'm going to configure a disk image level backup, then my recovery would be more useful, because here's the disk image that I configured. So this is the original size of the data, and this is the compressed size that gets stored in your storage repository. So when I click to restore it, I'll have multiple restore options that you could see. One is I can instantly boot it as a virtual machine on a VMware or a Hyper-V host. So that, though I've taken a physical machine backup, it helps me to convert it from the physical to a virtual file format. So my physical endpoint machine can be booted as a virtual machine on a VMware or a targeted VMware specifically, or on a Hyper-V host as a virtual machine. That is the instant boot, and this is more of an instant recovery option that you'll get, so you can achieve an RTO less than 15 minutes. Next, you have the disk or partition level recovery. So if you want to particularly restore a disk or a partition, you can use this option. It's more like a permanent restoration option. And the next is a disk mount option. This would be useful for IT administrators, whoever is accessing the backup server part, because for the disk mount, they can attach the disk of the backup backed up disk to the backup server as an additional disk using the disk management service of Windows. So this option is going to be only for Windows machines. And you have the download of the disk, which also helps you for a conversion of the file format. Like, you will be able to download it into multiple file formats. This particular disk, more of a VHD disk, I can download it as a VHD again, or I can download it as a VMDK, VHDX, or flat VMDK and raw file format. So downloading this disk in the multiple file formats can give me a conversion from a physical to a virtual, obviously. The next, to a virtual to a physical as well. So that is more like a cross-platform migration, which is more like a permanent step that I would achieve. And if my, the endpoint machine has any of this application, obviously these are server applications, but if at all we have any Outlook applications, then I'll be able to view the machine, view the the applications granularly. I can restore them, and I can even perform a file or folder level recovery. So here, when I take an image level backup, I don't have to worry about a file or folder level backup, because it's completely a complete disk image that I'm taking the later stage. I can even restore it at a file or folder level. So these are the multiple restore options that I get. Apart from this, I can even spin it up as a virtual instance in Microsoft Azure using this recovery to Microsoft Azure option. So this is what your endpoints backup is all about. So you now, initial to the previous versions, we had an endpoint option separately over here, but we have now included it in the one single section over here. So either your servers or the endpoints, you can use the same option by just installing the agent. So the agent that I told you, which I've installed it on my machine, I can take the machine anywhere around the globe. All that I need to do is, if I'm going to use the endpoints, or I'm going to shift regions, then please make sure your backup server, where you have installed the backup server, has a default IP address, that is public IP address. Once you have a public IP address anywhere from the globe that you go, you just need to during the installation, if you have added the IP address of the machine, server machine, in your agent, then obviously from any network over the WAN, you can connect the data to the backup server, and your backup data will be residing at the backup server's storage repository. So this is how simple that we have made your backup operations to be. It's more like a remote agent that you'll be installing, and this is how the endpoint backup is all about. So again, I'm telling you guys, this is more like the latest version of BDRSuite, which is 5.6 update 2. So you can see the build number here. So this, you have the 30 days of free trial. So again, you can just log into our website. I'm just showing you the BDRSuite.com again. So once you have the BDRSuite, just go to the download BDRSuite section here, or any of the download that you could click. So here's the software for your Windows installation. So you have the supported OS to install the software. So once you install the backup server, then you have to install the agent. The installer of the agent will be available within the backup server itself. Just go to data sources. Like if it is Windows or Linux, whatever it is, just click on add Microsoft Windows Linux details. If you want to download the agent manually, click on manual agent installation and download the agent. Here's the download icon for that. When you click on download, automatically the download will start. So this is how your BDRSuite has been made simple and easy. So you can start evaluating the product, and if you have any doubts in this point, then you can literally ask me for those details. I hope this session was more useful. Like endpoints is much of an important one around the globe, and I believe I've successfully given you a complete introduction to your endpoints backup. Okay, so I do see a lot of questions. Okay, there are a lot of questions that has been popping up. Okay. Oh, this is more like a licensing. Does endpoint costs different? Yeah, the licensing for the endpoints is different, and licensing for the server is different. So regarding the licensing, maybe like a sales team person will contact you and they'll give you the details for the licensing. But as of now, you can have 30 days of free trial. So you can have the 30 days of free trial to be enjoyed without any feature restriction. There are multiple random questions that I get. Oh yeah, the demo video. Yes, you can have the copy of this webinar video after 48 hours. It'll be available in our website, so you can just have a hold of our website. In the product webinar session, you'll have the detail to be shown. Yeah. So thank you, people. Thank you so much all for joining in this session, because I see there are a lot of Q&A, but Money is trying to answer those. Meanwhile, some QAs have already been answered. If we have left out with any of your questions, do not worry. You will get it answered through your registered mail ID for this session. Okay. Regarding the pricing and details, you can directly contact our sales team using this wembu-sales@wembu.com, or you can even contact support for the technicalities. You can just use the wembu-support@wembu.com for that purpose. So all your questions, you can just mail us, or you can even visit our website. You can use our contact details in our website, which is already displayed there, and you can reach out to us at any time. We have 24/7 support that we've been providing all these years. So once again, thank you all for joining this session. It's going to be nearly a 1 hour wonderful session that I had. So as I told, after 48 hours, you'll have the recordings to be available. So for recent updates on the product and much of more new features that is going to come in, please do stay tuned with us to the BDRSuite.com, and We are all there to serve you for a better protection of your data. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. Pleasure once again I take for you.